Embarrassment or awkwardness is defined as an emotional state that is associated with mild to severe levels of discomfort, which is usually experienced when someone commits a socially unacceptable or frowned upon act that is witnessed by or revealed to others. It is one of the biggest fears that our generation has. I am an older Gen Z, so I do remember the good old days of when we used to use the derp meme, and we used to really do really embarrassing shit on Tumblr that were so cringe. I always regard that part of my life very positively. Was it embarrassing? Yes, I was. But it was so much fun to exist without the constant regard to whether or not I'm being perceived as cringe or nonchalant or cool. It's such an interesting thing to witness how culture has become so deeply ingrained in the avoidance of cringe. We constantly work to appear as effortless as possible, like the clean girl aesthetic or minimalism, all of those things, which, funny enough, kind of requires a bit of effort, even though they're supposed to be effortless. It is such an interesting trend that is currently happening right now, and I really want to explore this even more, especially how in our pursuit of coolness and nonchalance, we actually are just participating in social policing. Before we get further into that, welcome back to Daimoni. Cringe is just slang for something that's embarrassing or awkward. And embarrassment or awkwardness is something that actually we have as humans. It's within our instincts. Because it was actually very important for us for our survival back in the days when we lived in tribes. It was easier for us to regulate behavior, and that way that ensured our survival because we know that no one is going to act erratically. It kept us in check, but it also kept us close to one another. I think it's important in this specific case to have those social norms because it was necessary for our survival. And I do think to some extent there is a need for some social norms that basically have to follow, like basic manners or basic ethicality. However, cringe and embarrassment has become people's biggest fear, even this younger generation. Actually, especially the younger generation. In an article titled "You Can Be Made into a Laughingstock to Millions, Can Gen Z Escape the Fear of Being Cringe?" According to Yahoo/YouGov poll this year, the fear of coming across as cringe has stopped more than half of Gen Z, so those born between the mid 1990s till early 2010s. And this is a rant. I'm gonna go off topic for a second. I don't think that's a good time period to between the 1990s and early 2010s. My nephew was born in 2010 and I was born in 1999. We are not from the same generation. So is he Gen Z then? Because early 2010s. No, I don't believe that. That cutoff is insane. I don't think it's true. From experiencing themselves freely online, and 55% of those surveyed said that it stopped them from opening up emotionally. New York University professor and writer Ocean Vuong raised concerns that his students are becoming more and more self-conscious about trying. So as you can see here, younger generations are having a tough time overcoming their fear of being cringe. And it's not just an internet thing anymore. It is actually, because it's a large phenomena that has been affecting people across different aspects of their lives. People are so self-aware to a degree that they're unable to live just a regular life anymore. In the article that I was reading earlier, they were talking about how there was someone that wanted to be a poet but felt like they couldn't do it because it was cringe. It feels cringe. And that being a poet, you need to kind of put yourself out there and be vulnerable and be a little bit cringe. And they couldn't feel like they could do that because it was lame. And according to an article by the New York Times, many students said that the fear of judgment often holds them back from their true selves. And not only that, it was reported that students being labeled cringe was actually detrimental to teenagers. And I think this is such a harmful thing because during your teenhood is the time where you kind of express yourself and your emotions and discover a little bit more about yourself as a person. And when you're constantly monitored and policed, then it can make this process so much harder, and it really will lead to delayed development. And I do think that I can see that. Seeing teenagers right now is really weird because they're kind of cool, like they're well dressed, they keeping up with trends, they're doing all of those things. And I remember when I was younger, when I was their age, I did not look like that. I did not act like that. And it's really also weird to see that this is like a major trend or a major phenomena happening, because people are online. At least I see this online. People desperately want to be perceived as authentic, and like they're not trying at all, and that is just the way they are all the time. They also don't want to be seen trying. So in order to be authentically cool, you have to put in effort to be authentically cool, but obviously that requires effort. So it's kind of hard for them, because if they are seen trying to care about those things, then it suddenly becomes uncool. And so it's like a kind of a conundrum they're stuck in. And I think this is, like I said earlier, why there is a rise of minimalist fashion and interiors. Oh my god, I hate minimalist interiors so much. It is so sad and depressing in my opinion. Like I am a person who loves like maximalism. I want colors, I want trinkets, I want to walk into your house and see that you live here, not a catalog or a hotel room, you know? But also, I think this is why the fashion trends, like the clean girl aesthetic, is super popular, because it looks effortless. It looks like you don't care, you're not trying, it's so nonchalant, even though it actually requires a lot of work, you know? Also, like a generation like our generation who is so deeply concerned with identity and also social awareness should not be actively going through this issue, at least in theory. The truth is, this is like actually part of the paradox that we're going through. According to an article titled "Why Cringe Has So Much Power Over Gen Z," the paradox: authenticity without earnestness. Gen Z is often described as value-driven, socially aware, and deeply invested in identity and meaning. That's true, but there's also a strong discomfort with being openly earnest. Caring too much looks cringe. Trying too hard looks cringe. Saying something sincere without a layer of humor or distance, the authenticity gets filtered. It's there, but wrapped in irony. Values are expressed but carefully. Passion is often implied rather than declared. Clinically, this shows up as a tension. Young people who care deeply but feel safer signaling that care indirectly. Humor becomes armor and detachment becomes protection. So clearly, this is a major issue that a whole generation is going through. And oftentimes when I see people discussing this issue, they're often like telling Gen Z to like just do things, just stop caring, you know what I mean? But usually when there is a phenomena that affects such large groups of people, are not often to blame, but rather there is a root of an issue that's causing them to act that way. And to me, that's what's really interesting about the subject, is why is there such a group of people who are so deeply terrified of being cringe? So from the different articles I've read and the different TikToks I've tried to like watch to see different people's perspectives, I found that the issue is surveillance culture. In a Guardian article, they were talking that I mentioned earlier, they were talking about how everyone was afraid of being recorded. She said, whether it's their dancing ability or just being able to participate and looking goofy, nobody is willing to participate unless someone else starts. Nobody is willing to start anymore. Fear of being recorded without your consent is a fear that is deeply rooted in the reason why people are so scared of being cringe. The idea that your mistake may be put on blast for like millions of people to see is horrifying, and I agree. You can't just be making a mistake and having to like suffer through that by yourself, or maybe shrugging it off and then it ends there, but someone might film it and it will forever be archived on the internet for all to see, and that's so fucking scary. Hi, Money. And this is exactly what they were talking about. They put it actually really nicely in the article. They said that like Gen Z feel like they're in a Truman Show. It's the Truman Show, except it's just Truman whose life is up for consumption. However, unlike Jim Carrey's Truman, oh, no. Unlike Jim Carrey's Truman, who is unaware that he is the main character in a reality show of his life, Gen Z are hyper aware of it. They are the first generation who, starting at a very young age, have joined platforms like Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, where every pose, every look, every smile is either being judged or they might feel like it is being judged. I think what we're seeing right now is the panopticon theory play right in front of us. If you don't know what that theory is, it's a prison designed by a man named Jeremy Bentham, I think that's how you say his last name. So his panopticon is a prison like no other. It was round and it had a tower in the middle. There's one guard that would sit and they would be able to see all the different cells all around them. And he would essentially watch every single prisoner. But the truth is he doesn't have the capacity to watch every single prisoner. But the prisoners did not know if they were being watched or not. Because the prisoners could never know whether or not they're being watched, they all felt and acted as if they were. Essentially, they were engaging in self-surveillance. That's when Michael Foucault? I don't know how to say his name, okay? He basically got the idea for the panopticon theory. An article who's discussing this very theory says, central to the view is surveillance, closely watching people, either overtly or making them feel as though they're being watched at any time, and then using what has been learned from this process to influence their action. Surveillance does not involve observing someone. For Foucault, it is also an active role to play when individuals regulate their own behavior because they fear being caught doing otherwise. And I think that's what's happening to all of us, because we feel like there might be an off chance of someone watching or recording us. We engage in self-policing, and it doesn't help right now that there are tech like the pervert glasses, the meta glasses, that essentially can mean that you might be filmed without your consent at all times and you may never know, and it's absolutely horrifying. Another thing, it's I think a coping mechanism. Attachment is a survival skill, and it's something that you kind of have to do if the world is burning because of climate change. You can't retire, you can't find a job, you can't pay rent. There are horrific things happening all around the world that you are watching via your phone, by the way. There are no more communities, and there's absolutely nothing left for you to do. So instead of the world rejecting you, you start rejecting the world. It's like saying I quit when you're gonna get fired, right? It feels like it hurts a little less. So what should we do? Now, the New York Times article discussed something called climbing a cringe tower. A mountain. And my first thought was when I read that is, well, that's kind of cringe, so I think it's perfect. Approach life with effort, but also without thinking that anything is too serious. And what I mean by that is always put effort into things you do, but don't take it too seriously if it fails. And I know that's really hard. Basically doing detachment, but in a way that's healthier than the one that you're currently doing, okay? Instead of I don't want to try anything anymore, how about I try things, but I will not get attached to the result. Don't take things seriously. Don't care if you look dumb. Like, it's fine. It's part of human experience. Humans are gonna look stupid and they're gonna look dumb and you're gonna be highly embarrassing, okay? And that's just part of it. It's what you need to do so that in the middle of the night you'll remember it and you'll cringe to yourself like 7 years later. It's part of the human experience, okay? It's so important to allow space for yourself to try, and it's also so important to allow the space for yourself to fail. Experience should be the goal rather than the results of those experiences. I know it's really hard because the world is so deeply unfair. We inherited a really, really effed up word right now. But it is also important to create like a little nook for yourself and for the people around you that you engage in that will help you mentally and also help the people around you. But also when you're actively doing something that is good and nice for you and for the people around you, that will eventually trickle over to greater change. It might not fix the world, but it might be a stepping stone into potentially engaging in activism or doing mutual aid or anything that could potentially help people. I also think, and this is sort of counterintuitive because you're watching this video on social media, and I am posting myself, but I think post yourself less. And what I mean by that is like your everyday life. Like when you go out somewhere, don't be thinking about the pictures or the reels or the things that you have to do. Do not think about the stories that you need to post or the thing that you have to do. Just for some period of time, a few months, okay? A few months to be like, I am taking time off of posting and I'm not gonna post anything, okay? And what you're doing here is you're trying to stop looking for validation outside of yourself. And it's totally okay to want validations from other human beings. You're wired to be like this. It's completely natural. But in order for you to kind of detach a little bit from that fear, you kind of need to stop looking for validation, because the core of this fear is fearing that other people will see you in a bad light. But if the people don't see you for a while, then you'll start doing things without caring because you're not posting about anything, right? And as you do so, you want to go and do things that are cringe. You want to push yourself to do things that are slightly cringy and create a safe space for yourself where you engage in things that are embarrassing. And it's okay though, because it's safe and it's just you and maybe some people you trust, and that feels good. And I think it's also important to stop consuming content and to engaging on the internet, because I do think that when we go on the internet, and I've made a video about this, there's usually just extreme content being pushed to us, which really, really affect the way we see the world. So I think it's really important for you to stop consuming a lot of content and to kind of exist with yourself for a while, to take some time off to challenge yourself and to do something cringe away from the eyes of the people that you are terrified of them finding out what you're doing the most, okay? And then slowly build up that tolerance to cringe so that once you get to a point where you can't do those things in front of them, you'll stop caring. Anyway, that's all for me today. I would love to hear about your thoughts about this. What do you think is the issue on why we have this fear? Do you have a fear of being cringe? I think that because I'm an older Gen Z, I kind of grew up around millennials, and I have it, but it's not that extreme. Like I have moments of times when I was cringe and I was really happy. Yeah. And I think that kind of gave me a little bit of a higher tolerance to being cringe, so I don't really care as much about being cringe anymore. I engage in cringe behavior sometimes and I'm okay with it. Sometimes it's okay, but I still have it to some degree. And yeah, it's something that I'm working on so that I stop caring about. But I would love to hear about your thoughts. Are you scared of cringe? Do you avoid it? Do you not do things because you're afraid that it's embarrassing? I would love to hear a little bit more about that down in the comments. And yeah, stop trying to be cool and start trying to be cringe, okay? That's my advice for you guys. Thank you guys. It would be really, really great if you guys like and subscribe. It helps this channel quite a bit. And as usual, I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.